Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Live 5 Fast Chat for 2024. I'm joined here with a very special guest, Dave Birch. Dave, it's good to have you.
Thanks.
It's a very special day, firstly because it's my birthday, and secondly because that means it's been 27 years now that we've been working together. And I'm excited for our first discussion on the Live 5 together in that time. But first of all, for people who don't know, who might not have read about it before on SHIP's website, what actually is the Live 5?
Well, the Life 5, is a thing that's like a lot of these things. It just started off one year just as a sort of kind of fun idea. Let's talk to the consultants about what they're discussing with clients, about what's going to be in the next strategies, like not what they're doing right now, but what's coming next. What are the things that clients have to have in their strategies rather than, the immediate day-to-day tactics. And it just seemed funny to have like five. We'll have the live five topics. And clients liked it. People found it sort of useful. And after we'd done it for a couple of years, people could see that, the Live 5 track record, if you like, had been reasonably accurate. And so it became just a tradition. And so each year we go through this same process and we put together the Live 5. We generally have four kind of business areas, and then we have the sort of interesting, wouldn't say wild card, but like the new technology area as well. And that gives us the five. And they clients find them useful in putting together their strategies.
They certainly do. So I guess I'll just rattle off the five first of all, and then we'll go through one at a time and discuss each one in a little bit of detail. So number one, we have open banking in the United States. Number two, smart wallets providing control without complexity. Number three, mobile driver's licenses for online use cases specifically. Number four, machine customers turning the tables on business. That one is very exciting. And finally, confidential computing, providing trust at scale. So let's start with the first one then, open banking in the United States. I've seen quite a few developments in my country of residence this year. Perhaps you could talk a little bit about them.
Well, I mean, obviously, open banking is big all around the world. I mean, everywhere, the regulators they want more competition. They want more innovation. They want to open up the sort of data hoards, if you like, and they want to give customers more control over that. So in other words, if I decide, I don't know, I want the insurance company to have access to my bank account for some reason,
Right.
It should be up to me whether they have that access, not up to the bank or not. So the idea is you move away from having these kind of bilateral agreements where banks have to agree that they'll give this data to a third party, and you have standardized APIs and third parties, with the customer permission, can come in and get access. It's slightly more limited than in the UK and Europe at the moment, because what's been put forward by the CFPB is what we think of as AISP, access account information. Payment initiation isn't sort of there yet, but nonetheless, because it's in the US, because there's a lot of activity in the open banking space already, I think, and lots of other people think, that this will lead to an interesting burst of creativity and some interesting new fintech, and I have to say regtech opportunities in the US. So yeah, open banking's been around for a while. Certainly our experience in open banking, not just working for financial services organizations, but working for Open Banking UK itself, is that, there's a lot to come in this space. And I think the US going in this direction now will really kind of turbocharge some of the efforts there. So yeah, so it is a big deal because it's in the US.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it presents a few different challenges as well in the US. I can't remember off the top of my head how many banks there are in the US, but
5,000.
Several thousand, yeah. So certainly some interesting challenges there. Number two, I hear you talk about this a lot, smart wallet. Providing control without complexity. What does that mean, providing control without complexity?
I mean, what it means is for a lot of people, actually, a lot of financial services transactions are either too boring, like me paying for car parking at the train station or something. It's, why my phone just can't sort that out for itself. I have no idea. I mean, why I need to be in the loop, I don't really know. But there are other financial services transactions, like choosing a choosing a savings account or pensions and things like that, which are
Important
really
decisions.
complicated. They are, and for an average person, I include myself in this, by the way, in this category. These decisions are complicated, and a pretty average, regulated financial services bot could make better decisions about those kind of things than I do. So in both cases, it would sort of be better to have bots in charge of things. Now that extends to wallets, because a lot of clients have been working on wallet strategy over the last year. Digital wallets are the fastest growing payment mechanism and all this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, if you open up an actual wallet, like the one on my desk right now, and look inside it, it doesn't have any money in it. What it has in it is identity. It's about reputation and credentials and so on and so forth. So the idea that if I want to interact online, I'm going to need my wallet to show my driving license or my loyalty card or whatever, that sounds great. What's changed this year, because of everything that's been going on with generative AI, is the realization that a lot of those transactions are going to be done not by me, but by my bot or bots. Mm-hmm. And so the APIs into the wallets start to become important, and the standardization, and actually the regulation of them as well, because you're going to need open access to those kind of things. So yeah, so everybody knows wallets are going to be big. What's changed this year? And I remember, a lot of this goes back to Mike Kelly and his experiment. He's a good friend of ours, and his experiments with Bank GPT, where he wrote the Chat GPT plugins for UK open banking APIs, kind of opened up the sort of thinking. And yeah, I think the recognition that a lot of transactions are going to be done through wallets, but not by people, does change the downstream strategies for some of our clients. It's a very interesting area.
And you touched on two of the other live five there. Firstly, by mentioning the potential for having a driver's license in my wallet. So number three, we have mobile driver's licenses for online use cases. Now, why is that so important?
Well, I think the reason why that's important is because mobile driving licenses are standardized. It's an ISO standard. You've got the big players like Apple and Google support it. So, and for people, it's easy to understand. The idea that you'll download your driving license into your phone, and then, if you get stopped in the middle of the night, the policeman can check your phone instead of checking your paper driving license. I don't even know what a paper driving license is. But, of course, the standardization is continuing. So what was standardized was the driving license itself. What's becoming standardized over the next year is the use of that driving license online. And for all sorts of reasons, ranging from age verification to account opening to, lots of other things, having online mobile driving licenses, we think is quite a big deal and opens up lots of new pathways, lots of new applications.
It does, and I saw some people doing some very interesting experiments at the last Internet Identity Workshop I was at. Yeah. So I look forward to see more adoption of 18013-7 next year, hopefully as well. Hopefully in my state, California, as well.
Yeah, well, California DMV is one of the ones that's active.
Absolutely. Number four, you actually touched on this previously as well a little bit, talking about our wallets speaking for us. So machine customers turning the tables on business. Some people might not have even heard of a machine customer before. What's that?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you think about the logical extension, the bots start to do transactions for you because the transactions are boring or they're complicated. In both cases, bots can do them better than you can. Well, if you sort of roll that forward a little bit, you get to a situation where the bots are kind of intermediating. In other words, when I decide I want to, for example, in the UK, there's a particular kind of tax efficient savings account called an ISA, individual savings account, and I opened one last year for reasons we don't need to go into. And it was such a hassle. I spent all day looking at all of these different ISAs to try and work out which was the right one. And then you have to go through the rigmarole of kind of opening one and mucking about with driving licenses and copies of gas bills and God knows what else. I mean, I would desperately like an FCA regulated bot to do that for me, so I don't have to do it myself, But then if you think about how that bot will choose providers, it's not going to be the same as to how a person would. Like, the bot doesn't care what your logo looks like or what your advert on TV was, with
Yeah.
horses floating through space stations or whatever it was. The bot doesn't care about the fact your bank is 500 years old, and the bot doesn't care about any of that stuff. The bot cares about numbers, like what's the interest rates, and but it also cares about what's the uptime on the APIs, what's the what kind of availability, how rich are the APIs, what APIs are available, what data can you get through the APIs. So the way bots will make decisions is different from the way people make decisions, and I think for a lot of our clients on the marketing and business development side, this kind of realization that you're not going to be selling to people, you're going to be selling to AIs, is new and a bit surprising. And I wrote a paper a couple of months ago with Kirsty Rutter from Lloyd's about the impact on retail financial services of customers having AI, not banks having AI. And it's a very, I mean, who knows how it's going to turn out? But the point is, we need to start thinking about it. So while it might be difficult to predict, okay, well, what will bots do when they have this? And you think about the interactions, because instead of me complaining to the bank about, oh, I couldn't find my IBAN or whatever it was, why didn't this check get paid, or whatever, it won't be me doing it, it'll be a bot doing it, and it'll be talking to another bot at the bank end. And so they should be able to do this in nanoseconds instead of the half hour it takes me to talk to someone at the bank. So this whole thing about financial services being delivered not to the customer, but to the customer's bots is very fundamental to what the next generation of financial services is going to look like, I think. So that's why we chose, and because of some of the work, Gartner was saying that, I mean, they call them custo bots, which I don't know if that's a good word for it or not. But these kind of predictions about the impact of machine custody, they sound crazy, but I don't think they are. And I think for some of our clients, it needs to be part of their sort of 3 to 5 year strategy. How are you going to sell things to bots?
It's certainly an interesting idea, having a machine that could potentially sit through an hour-long waiting call to get through to customer service on my behalf.
Yeah.
Finally, the last point here we have is confidential computing, providing trust at scale. So maybe you could tell people firstly what we mean by trust when we're talking about digital financial transactions.
Yeah, no, of course, we mean trust in the sort of technical sense of the word trust. Like, right. How do I know that you? Oh, if you take the very simplest example of this kind of privacy enhancing environment, how do I know that you process the data properly? You did whatever you're supposed to be doing to it. This is about the provision of proofs instead of the provision of data. It's that kind of thing. And to do that, I need to know that the data was processed inside this confidential environment where you couldn't see it, you couldn't get at it, but that the computations that were done were correct. And this is all done using proofs and complex cryptography. But the reason it's important, and the technology of that, some of that is quite complicated. But the reason it's so important is because there's a bigger picture to this, which isn't just about financial services, but to grow the data economy, we need to get data moving around the economy. You need to get people sharing data, not hoarding it. But if you want people to share their data, like for healthcare and things like this, for example, not just financial services, you have to find a way of keeping that data private. So how can I send you data that you're going to process to discover, I don't know, is there a relationship between eating a certain kind of breakfast cereal and dropping dead from some kind of cancer? How are you going to process that data without having access to people's personal information? And crude anonymization techniques don't really work. So the idea is, I send you the data in an encrypted format. The data gets decrypted inside a secure environment, which you can't see inside. The data gets processed and the results come out. But at all points, the data stays private. And that's a really interesting new way of doing things. And so this idea that you can move data around and process it, but keep it private, which sounds a bit counterintuitive. It's a bit sort of squaring the circle there. Actually, with new technology, we can do that. And that's potentially revolutionary in the data space. So I stress not just about financial services. I mean, imagine, you look at our other clients in transit, identity, like imagine, you need to take people's personal data and process it to discover some wisdom, some interesting
To
things.
make attestations about that person, yeah.
And to get insight, but you don't want people's personal data being shared. You can imagine, like I could take all of the rides from the subway yesterday, send them inside, some trusted environment where they're not visible and then the data can be processed and the results come out, and the whole time people's data stays private. But you can be sure, because of the cryptography involved, you can be sure that the right data was processed. You can be sure that the right application, the right algorithms were applied. You can be sure of the results, but at no point actually see anyone's personal data. And I think this is really, this opens up some amazing new stuff. One of the implications, actually, because some of the other work we were doing was actually not on the technology side of that, but on the governance side of that. The UK is quite advanced in one particular kind of governance, which is the data trust. The idea that you put data into trust, and there are trustees who make sure it's used properly and that kind of thing. So it isn't just about the kind of mechanics of the cryptography and the trust. It's also about how that works. Like, what is the governance that goes with that? And I think that's where we've been fortunate to get one or two insights from different projects, which I think for some clients could open up some strategically important new areas. So confidential computing, this is basically about sharing data but keeping it private.
It's something that I think a lot of people maybe don't realize just how important that is for them, being able to keep their privacy when transacting online. So it's certainly going to be a challenge, I think, to make that something people need to be aware of. Well, I think that's the fifth and final of the Live 5 for 2024. Firstly, Dave, thank you for joining today and giving us your insights.
It's fun, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much. For anyone who wants to go and see the Live 5 in more detail or any of the previous Live 5s, you can head to our website, that's chyp.com, to check out our Live 5s and other blog posts that we've done in the past as well. Well, thank you very much again, Dave, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for watching the Live 5 2024. Bye, everyone.